You haven't texted anyone in weeks. Your phone buzzes, and you already know you won't answer. Someone asks if you want to hang out. You say you're busy. And this time, you're not lying. You are busy. Busy protecting your peace. Busy choosing yourself for the first time in years. Busy realizing that silence feels better than the noise ever did. People call you cold now. The one who changed. The one who disappeared. The one who cut everyone off without explanation. But here's what nobody's asking. What if you didn't cut people off? What if you just stopped pretending you weren't already alone? This is the psychology of people who walk away from everyone. And spoiler alert, it's not the villain origin story people think it is. Let's get something straight. You didn't wake up heartless. You woke up after years. Years of being the friend who always showed up, who drove hours for other people's emergencies, who remembered birthdays like it was your job, who asked how people were doing and actually listened to the answer. You were the reliable one, the glue, the one everyone called when they needed something. Then one day, you needed something, your own crisis, your own breaking point, your own 3 a.m. moment when you couldn't hold it together anymore. You reached out. You asked for help. Silence. Maybe one sorry to hear that text. Maybe someone said they'd call back. They didn't. And in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't that no one came. It was that you realized how alone you'd always been. You just hadn't noticed, because you were too busy being there for everyone else. That's when your brain did something fascinating. It started running cost-benefit analyses without you even realizing it. Every interaction became a spreadsheet. How much energy does this take? What am I actually getting back? And the data was devastating. You were the one texting first, always. You were the one adjusting your schedule, the one remembering, the one checking in, the one showing up. And when you looked at how many times they did the same, tumbleweeds. So you stopped, not dramatically, quietly. You stopped texting first to see if they'd notice. They didn't. You stopped making plans to see if they'd reach out. They didn't. You stopped performing to see if they'd stay anyway. They didn't. And that told you everything you needed to know. Here's where it gets deeper. This pattern didn't start in adulthood. Somewhere back in childhood, you learned something early. That people leave, or people hurt, or people only love you when you're useful. Maybe you had a parent who was physically there but emotionally gone. In the room, but never really present. Maybe love came with conditions. Be good, be quiet, be less. Don't be so sensitive. Other kids have it worse. Why are you crying over nothing? So you stopped crying. You stopped asking. You learned to handle everything alone, because asking for help meant disappointment. Your nervous system absorbed these lessons while it was still developing, still trying to understand the world, still learning what relationships were supposed to feel like. Those early experiences became your blueprint, and every adult relationship that followed just confirmed what you already suspected. Eventually, people leave. Eventually, the love runs out. Eventually, you'll be alone with the pieces, so you started controlling the one variable you could control. The exit. If everyone leaves eventually, you decide when. You cut them off before they can cut you off. Abandonment hurts less when you're the one who initiates it. People call it self-sabotage. You call it pattern recognition. Here's the part that surprises most people. You don't hate the people you left. Hate requires energy. Hate requires caring enough to hold on to the anger. You're past that. You're not angry. You're indifferent. And indifference is so much quieter than hate. They want closure. They want the conversation where you explain everything, where you list what they did wrong, where you give them the chance to apologize, or argue, or make you stay. But closure would require explaining yourself to people who never listened. Closure would mean reopening wounds that finally stopped bleeding. So you give them nothing. Let them write whatever story they need to write about you. You're not reading it. Here's the truth nobody tells you. The loneliest you ever felt wasn't when you cut everyone off. It was before, sitting in a room full of friends and feeling invisible, being in a relationship and still feeling fundamentally alone, laughing at jokes while something inside you was quietly dying. The physical isolation didn't create the loneliness. It just stopped pretending the loneliness wasn't already there. You scroll through old photos sometimes. Birthdays, group trips, Nights out that look like friendship from the outside. You don't miss those people. You miss the version of yourself who still believed those connections were real. Who thought if you just tried harder, gave more, cared enough, they'd finally show up for you the way you showed up for them. That version of you almost didn't survive. She gave until there was nothing left. He poured himself into people who never thought to fill him back up. You saved yourself by leaving. People say you're running away. You know you're running toward something. Toward peace. Toward quiet that doesn't come from loneliness, but from finally choosing yourself. Toward mornings, where you don't wake up wondering who's going to disappoint you today. You became a detective of abandonment patterns. You spot them early now. The friend who only texts when they need something. The person who's present when life is good but disappears when it gets hard. The let's hang out soon that never turns into a date. Your brain developed what psychologists call hypervigilance. Not the kind that makes you paranoid. The kind that makes you accurate. Your pattern recognition isn't pessimism. It's data collection. And the data keeps proving you right. So now you run a test. You stop initiating. You stop reaching out. You see if they notice. They rarely do. And that tells you everything. People say you've built walls. You didn't build walls. You built boundaries. Walls keep everyone out. Boundaries keep the wrong people out. The problem is, after enough years of only the wrong people showing up, boundaries start looking like walls. And maybe that's okay, because those walls aren't keeping you trapped. They're keeping you alive. They're giving you space to heal, to become someone who might one day be ready to try again, but only on terms that honor who you are. Here's what people don't realize. Cutting everyone off doesn't hurt like you thought it would. The solo holidays, the birthday with no texts, the emergency you handle yourself. You expected devastation. Instead, you got quiet, and quiet became your favorite sound. You're not choosing isolation over connection. You're choosing isolation over rejection. You're choosing peace over performance. You're choosing yourself over people who only wanted what you could give them. That's not cold. That's clarity. You didn't cut off everyone who loved you. You cut off everyone who made love feel conditional. The ones who stayed when you stopped being useful, they're still there. The list is just shorter than you thought it would be. And that hurts more than the leaving ever did. So where do you go from here? Maybe one day you'll try again. Maybe you'll meet someone who makes connection feel safe. Maybe you'll find people who show up without you begging them to see you. Maybe. But right now, you're protecting the part of yourself that still remembers what it felt like to hope. You're keeping that small flame alive by refusing to let anyone blow it out again. Because the next disappointment might be the one that extinguishes it completely. And then you'd have nothing left. Not even the possibility of trying again. Cutting everyone off isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of self-preservation. It's your nervous system finally saying, enough. Enough performing. Enough pretending. Enough accepting less and calling it connection. Enough breaking yourself into smaller pieces to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You're not cold. You're surviving. You're not the villain in their stories. You're someone who finally stopped waiting for people to show up and started showing up for yourself. The walls you built aren't keeping you trapped. They're keeping you whole. And maybe for the first time in your life, in the quiet, in the space you cleared by cutting away everything that was slowly killing you, you're finally free. Now close this video. And if you've been carrying guilt for walking away, put it down today. You didn't abandon anyone. You rescued yourself. Before you go, tell me, what was your breaking point? The unanswered text? The one-sided effort? The moment you realized no one was coming? Drop it in the comments. And if you chose yourself and you're still healing in the quiet, come on, finally free. You're not alone in this, even if being alone is what saved you.